Welcome, everybody. This is OHD's kickoff webinar for Safe+Sound Week. I'm Stephanie Lynch, and I'm the OHD's Senior Technology and Research Manager, and I'm joined here today by OHD's Marketing Manager, Justin Lobdell. Say hello, Justin.
Hey, everyone.
Justin's going to be monitoring our chat, which we did want working, so thanks for that earlier. We want you to use that anytime you feel like Justin will be monitoring it. Let me know if he needs to interject. And we just want to thank OSHA, we want to thank NIOSH, ASSP, just to name a few, for the support of this week. It's been such a fun thing for us participating. This is, I think, our third year.
It is. Yep.
It's been a rough 3 years, everyone. But, and you know, not that fit testing by any means has been the top of that bad things list, but the pandemic definitely didn't make anything about fit testing any easier.
Sure.
So this title is a little bit, if you're familiar with our technology, then you know it's a little bit of play on words because we use controlled negative pressure for our fit testing, but that doesn't mean that it's not very much true. Respirator fit testing can be very cumbersome. And what we're hoping today is that we can cover some of the basics and then talk about a few of the ways that you can make it suck a little bit less, right? Okay. So just to get everyone kind of on the same page, and I don't know, anyone in the chat or any of you new to fit testing, just go ahead and pop in if this is kind of your first foray into fit testing. So I never know if I have anyone completely new, but is anyone here brand new? So if a fit test is when we challenge the seal, or maybe it even got thrust upon you because of the pandemic.
We do have a couple.
Oh, very cool. So fit test is when we challenge the seal of a respirator to a user's face. And so that user is going to have already selected that respirator as comfortable, and they should have already been trained on its purpose and use and how to maintain it. And the challenge of that seal is performed through a series of exercises that is part of an approved protocol. And fit testing is just one small part of a respiratory protection program. So if you're new to fit testing, then you might be new to this whole idea of respiratory protection program administration, which is a whole nother demon and would take us many other hours to cover. Mm-hmm. So we're covering just one part of that with this, which is the respirator fit testing portion. So when we go in to fit test, there's different methods of fit testing. So the first one I'm going to cover is qualitative fit testing. Qualitative fit testing is going to test the adequacy of a respirator, sort of based on the user's experience wearing it. So the test is simply pass, fail, and it's going to rely heavily, rely solely on the respirator user's senses as they wear the respirator. So the current most recommended methods are listed here. So isoamyl acetate is a substance that has the smell of bananas. So you'll often hear it called banana oil. Saccharin is going to be perceived as a sweet taste. And it's my least favorite. It's what I used at the hospital, and I still taste it in my nightmares. And then Bitrex is a substance with a bitter taste. And I think this is probably most often used. It is my preferred method of qualitative fit testing because you can sort of typically see the user have a little bit of a reaction to that bitter taste, get that scrunched up face. So that can help you kind of, I don't want to say like prevent people from cheating, but it just makes it a little more visual, a little easier to see. There is also Irritant Smoke, which is an OSHA approved method, but it is not recommended by NIOSH because it's actually an irritant. It is a hazard. It irritates the mucous membranes, which results in the respirator user, if they do end up getting exposed, coughing, sneezing, etc. Irritant smoke can also only be used with specific filters. So P100 or HEPA, I'm pretty sure, but don't quote me on that. It is written very clearly in the standard. So if you need some follow-up on that, just let me know. But all qualitative fit testing can only be used for masks with a reference passing fit factor of 100 or less. So that's going to be for OSHA, the half masks, elastomeric, and the filtering face piece respirators. So qualitative fit testing does have some benefits. It's relatively inexpensive and it requires very little maintenance. But like I mentioned, it is subjective and it is therefore sort of subject to, I use that word cheating, so now it's like stuck in my head, and I shouldn't have used it, but but so for instance, I mentioned I worked at a hospital. I did loads of qualitative fit testing. If I could go back in time, I would have educated myself better, and I would have very likely switched up at least what I was using. I mentioned I used the saccharin, and I was doing saccharin every day, and it was just, I really do think that there must be some level that is likely harmful or at least bothersome at certain levels. But I just seriously doubt that all these people, so over 2,500 people, just had incredible fits with these filtering face piece N95s that they were using. But they knew that they had to pass the fit test to work, right? So they passed. Mm-hmm. And so that's what I mean about cheating. It's not cheating in the same sense of being so horribly unethical. It's that these people are altruistic, right? They want to go and do their jobs. They're nurses, they're doctors, and yeah, Lord knows we've put them through the ringer through the pandemic. So I don't know how different that environment might be now, but they knew they had to pass to work, so they came through and they passed their fit test, and they wanted to do it as quickly as possible. And that's another thing that I wasn't really educated on, because qualitative fit testing, even at the time, was likely the method that took the longest. So, okay, I mentioned that then I do wonder about any of these substances if you're using them. I talked about the saccharin, but even the Bitrex or the banana oil, if you're talking about filling up maybe a small room and you're having, tons of people come in every day, you as the fit tester should sort of at least consider your own exposure, right? How much of that substance are you getting exposed to? Maybe that's just the industrial hygienist talking in me, but it was something that I became a little bit concerned about. Okay, next method of fit testing, jumping into quantitative fit testing. So quantitative fit testing is going to use a machine to measure the actual amount of leakage into the face piece. And it's not going to rely on that user's sense of taste or smell or irritation to detect that leakage. So the respirators used during this type of fit testing are going to have an adapter or a probe attached to the face piece that will be connected to the machine by a hose. And there are 3 types of quantitative respirator fit test methods that are currently accepted by OSHA. So controlled negative pressure, ambient aerosol, and generated aerosol. So the 2 most common methods that you're going to see out there, I will say that there actually is a quasi-portable method of the generated aerosol fit test chamber, but you're typically only going to see those in like research. I think it's the Navy. I think that's the branch of the military that does have a portable version of that, but you won't typically see it out and about the world because it's quite large and it requires the chamber that you're essentially building. Okay, neither here nor there. Okay, CMP is going to be with the OHD Quantitative Fit testing instrument. This is going to use a controlled negative pressure to directly measure respirator leakage. It precisely measures a leak rate, and that's going to be in cc's per minute, by determining the amount of air that is leaking into the respirator during the fit test. It's going to use air as the challenge agent, and CMP is currently only available for elastomeric respirators. So ambient aerosol, or CNC, you'd think we could have come up with more different acronyms, but there you go. So welcome newbies, get those straight. It's carried out by probing the face piece measurements of aerosol concentration, both under the mask and outside of the mask, and the calculation of the ratio of those concentrations. The aerosol can be, and often is, artificially created for testing. If you have natural particle counts that are too low, that's something I often saw in the hospital. We had a lot of clean rooms. The ratio of external particles to the particles under the mask is going to determine that fit factor. Okay, so quantitative fit testing is going to be more expensive, and it is going to require maintenance, typically an annual calibration. The benefits are that these machines are objective. They're going to provide you with some documentation. They're also a lot faster than the qualitative method, which I already touched on, but they've also in just recent years, they've gotten even faster. So these methods are going to save you a lot of time if you have been doing qualitative. So the first thing you can do to make your respirator fit testing program suck less is to make a plan. So how many people are you testing? Which types or type of respiratory protection are you using? Where's the best place for you to do this? Will it be handled internally? Are you going to contract it out? How flexible do you need to be? Is it going to end up being site specific? These are all the things that you need to kind of look at and write out this list. And that's going to help you look at that previous list of those methods that are available and decide which one or ones are going to work best for you. And there are several companies that I'm sure have to utilize a mix. So those are the things you need to kind of get in your head to move forward with your respirator fit testing. But so why are we doing this at all? Okay, we fit test, of course, first and foremost to make sure that our employees are protected from any workplace hazards and to ensure that they're well trained on the use of their respirator. Because I mean, any respirator is only as good as you're able to use it and use it effectively and as good as it's fit. So there's just a lot of aspects that are going to that. But we're also regulated to do so. So in the US, OSHA is going to require fit testing, but several other national and international organizations require it also. That list seems to keep expanding, and I imagine it still will. By fit testing our employees, we're also empowering them with some peace of mind about the protection that they are being provided and in their own ability to don their respirator and protect themselves. So having this aspect of control in your job can be very beneficial. Even just the perception of control can help with job satisfaction. So that being said, the point here to the organization of your fit testing program is to decide which guidance you are going to follow. Keeping in mind that OSHA essentially is the bare minimum. So OSHA is what you have to meet, but you can always go beyond that. So one way that, and we'll touch on this in just a minute, but one way that we kind of look at this is when you think about who performs your fit testing. You may want to end up requiring that person have, a certain amount of experience or have an accreditation or have gone through a particular course. Those are things that you may need to consider to decide what you accept as a qualified person, as opposed to OSHA's pretty loose language of just a qualified individual, right? And we'll see that a little bit as we move forward. So when are we going to fit test? Respirator fit testing needs to be performed initially, and then also anytime it's identified in a workplace that an unfitted respirator is being used. Hopefully, as we're sort of getting a little bit post-pandemic here, this isn't happening often. And hopefully because of where we gotten as a society, it isn't happening often, but I have seen it. And I did see it pre-pandemic too, where a company working with hazardous stuff has just never been made aware of the requirement. And so they're trying to do the right thing by using respirators, but none of them have been tested. They just thought, well, respirators provide protection, let's just hand them out. And so unfortunately, I also then did see this happen more with the pandemic. Employers were thinking, well, I'll just hand out N95s to all of my employees. And that way they're going to be able to safely work. And hopefully we know at this point, that's much more easily said and done, because like I said, even if you got through your fit testing of all these N95s that you're trying to hand out to your employees, that's only one part of this requirement to have a respiratory protection program, which then requires administration of that program and a lot more work. So this is going to help you, like when you're going to fit test and thinking about that question is going to help you think about timing of tests. So are you going to do an annual blitz? A lot of companies choose that course and maybe they contract it out. So they just have a contractor come on site a couple times, once a year, and they're just going through their fit tests. Or are you going to maybe space everyone out because it's more manageable for you, or you just feel more comfortable handling it internally. And so you're going to have different departments fitted at different times. Maybe every month, pick a department who's going to come through and do their fit testing, right? So just something to consider. And then you're going to repeat that test at least annually. They're going to also be needed if there's any facial changes, so weight loss or gain, or facial surgery. And I say this a lot, so if you've been in any of my webinars, you've probably heard this, but I still stand by this. Good luck to you being the person who approaches an employee and says, you look like you've put on 20 pounds since your last fit test, so get over here. This is where you really have to rely on employees taking their own safety seriously and being the one to come to request that updated test, right? And that ultimately boils down to culture, which again is another thing we could just have hours and hours of webinars on, right? How to build a good safety culture. I can tell you that one of the things that you can do is have a well-functioning fit testing program and have where employees do feel safe enough to come up to you and ask questions about their own fit testing, ask questions about their own respiratory protection, and provide them really good foundational training as well as reinforcing it regularly. This is another reason I actually do believe that annual requirement is such a good idea. Some standards do sort of spread it out a little bit further, and I think the annual requirement is good. I personally have definitely gained 20 pounds in a year before. So I know that it can happen.
Quick question,
Yeah.
Dr. Lynch. So what about a mask change that is the same size as the previously one used?
Do you mean a mask changes in the brand?
I would assume, yeah, the actual manufacturer of the brand.
That's correct. You would have to perform a new fit test at that point. Anytime you switch model, mask size, any of those are going to also initiate. And so that to me is then just considered a new respirator, right?
Sure. Okay.
So we already said that we have to do the fit test when we have a new respirator in use. That's a new respirator in use.
Gotcha. So even if it's like an AB 2000 to a new AB 3000, that's technically still a new respirator that you'll be wearing. So we need to make sure to fit test that.
That's correct. Okay. Unless the manufacturer were to come out with some statement stating that the face pieces were exactly the same, which I've never seen, you would need to do an entirely new fit test.
Safety first, fit test.
Safety first. Also, yeah, if you're ever if you're ever in doubt, do another fit test.
Absolutely. Perfect. Thank you.
So I touched on this a bit earlier about who can perform your fit tests. The different standards and regulations are going to offer different languages on who can fit test. I mentioned that OSHA simply says a qualified person. There are accreditation schemes and there are classes. A couple of people who come to mind who offer classes. I think maybe Dr. Roy McKay offers a fit testing course that you can take to become, sort of certified. I could be wrong about that, but other people, there are definitely classes out there. In the UK, they have Fit to Fit. And knowing about these programs and schemes can help you select the right person for your team and also help you educate yourself as you see fit or as necessary. Sometimes we need some continued education and catch up. I know I personally had to take a lot more classes over the pandemic as things were pretty rapidly changing for what we may need with our fit tests, because a lot of people were shutting down and then other people were trying to start back up, and we all know how complex the guidance became. Okay. So ResFit, I just want to call them out specifically because they're Australia's accreditation scheme, and OHD is proud to sponsor ResFit. They have incredible resources and a dedicated team of volunteers, myself included, who work to provide direction on just who can fit test in Australia. So I think you will see more of these accreditation schemes coming up, sort of popping up. Okay. So we've talked about several of the things that you need to consider as you get your fit testing program started, or maybe just going again. You need to already have a well-maintained respiratory protection program with a competent administrator, and then you can have the fit testing aspect. This can be the same person, but it doesn't have to be. Once you know the foundational aspects of your respirator fit testing program, you can then focus on a particular method or methods. So our preferred method, of course, here at OHD is controlled negative pressure. So controlled negative pressure, or CNP, is the patented fit test technology applied by the OHD Quantitative Fit 2. It's the same technology that we've been using for over 30 years. It utilizes negative pressure as a direct measure of respirator leakage, and we use air to challenge the respirator. So I mentioned earlier some of the considerations of if you're doing qualitative, then you're having to fill up a hood with a substance, but then once that hood comes off, it's still filling up your space if you're using a room. So you're essentially still having to create this environment. Well, same thing for CNC. If you're using ambient aerosol, you're going to have to make sure your room either does meet the needs, or you're gonna have to create that environment. So just a consideration there. The QuantiFit just uses air molecules. And so air molecules have an ambient concentration in the septillions. So I like to say that when we're creating and maintaining that controlled negative pressure, and that controlled negative pressure is mimicking the inhale of an average human that's working at a moderate rate, then we're creating an environment that's going to have all of those air molecules just fighting to get into that respirator in any way possible. And that's why we like it. But so to create and maintain a negative pressure, the respirator.
So it does suck too.
Yeah, also it sucks. So we're trying to make your respirator, the respiratory fit testing program suck less by letting it suck more.
That's it.
That's it. Everyone make fun of me about that. Here it goes. You got to have a little bit of fun. It's little things.
Let's do it.
So to create and maintain a negative pressure, the respirator wearer is going to take a comfortable breath. They're going to hold it, and automatically the QuantiFit 2 is going to close to seal the respirator with the adapter valve. And then the QuantiFit 2 is going to pull out air until it reaches a set challenge pressure within the respirator. And so that pressure is associated with the breathing rate. If no leak is detected, then the pressure is going to remain constant. If leak is detected, then the machine is going to work to remove air until the challenge pressure within the respirator has been achieved. It's going to do that for 8 seconds. And during that 8 seconds, it is tracking the exact amount of air that it has removed. And so this is how it calculates a leak rate. And this is what makes it a direct measurement of leak. So if you're concerned about how much your respirator is leaking, we can tell you exactly how much it's leaking. The triple tube assembly has one line that seals off the adaptive breathing ports. And then it has a dual tube side with one measuring any air that's leaking into the mask and another that is evacuating that leaked air and maintaining a negative pressure within the respirator. The single greatest limitation of our technology currently is that we cannot test filtering facepiece respirators. So if you're mostly dealing with elastomerics, there are several benefits to this being the way that our tech functions though. It, like I mentioned, means you're not going to need that room with a particular particle count. You don't even have to be inside. You're going to be able to be outside. You can take the test to them. There's a lot of things that can end up being beneficial if that is your use case. So we, being controlled negative pressure in the QuantiFit 2, just like the other fit test technologies, quantify the fit of a respirator with a fit factor. The way that we do this is that the QuantiFit 2 converts the leak rate that it is measured into a fit factor. It's going to take the modeled breathing rate and it's going to divide it by the measured leak rate. So this is how you get each individual exercise's fit factor. Another way to look at this is that it's the ratio of the total air inhaled to the possibly contaminated air inhaled. And so you can see how that would compare to what ambient aerosol was doing when they're looking at the concentration inside and outside the mask and creating a ratio. And if that's what you're used to, then you're going to see very different numbers with CNP than with CNC. CNC, so ambient aerosol CNC, is going to have generally much higher fit factors for the same donning, same fit measure as with when that's measured with CNP. So just something to be aware of if you are different. And then I'm afraid I may not have mentioned this earlier, but with qualitative fit testing, that pass-fail line is that 100. So when you get a pass with the qualitative method, that's going to be assigned as a 100 fit factor. Okay. So we then use a harmonic mean to calculate the overall fit factor from each of the test exercises fit factors. So because fit factors should be conservative from a health protection standpoint, it's useful to utilize a harmonic mean, which is going to place greater weight on the lower values. So for instance, if you had your 5 exercises from your read-on fit test and you looked across them and you tried to just do a normal average, your normal average is going to be higher than the overall fit factor that you're going to see the QuantiFit 2 spit out. And that's because it's a harmonic mean, not just a straight average. And that is to place emphasis on those lower values because we believe that that is beneficial from a health protection standpoint. And for the record, so do the other methods of fit testing. That's what we all do. And that's what can make it confusing about the fit factors being able to be compared directly, because then they really still can't. So the most commonly used fit test protocol for CNP is our read-on protocol. So you can see that it's 5 steps. And these take an experienced tester no more than 2 minutes. A lot of people maybe haven't seen a test with our technology, especially since we know now that we have a couple newbies. So I thought that that might be the most helpful thing here. We're going to try a video. If for some reason it doesn't go well, then we will just go through the steps a little more thoroughly. All right, so first off, we're good. Everything's rolling. Okay, so this is Luke Allen. Luke Allen is the president of OHD. He's also our boss. So we'll be careful what we say here. But he's demonstrating a fit test with our read-on protocol. So we're going to see him don the mask. We just saw him get the mask situated on his face. And this is his mask that he's very familiar with. But he's going to wait a bit and breathe normally. He's then going to take a breath and hold it. He just did that. And then you're going to be able to see the machine go ahead and initiate that first test measurement. And so he's going to go through. He's a very experienced tester. So, you know, of course he passed. Now he's rolling into our second step, which is bend over. He's going to bend over. Again, OSHA has a wait period that's implemented here for the first and second step. So he's going to wait for a minute, well, for a few seconds, take a breath and hold it. It's going to initiate that test step again. He's going to pass with flying colors again. Our third step is it looks a bit odd, but he's going to forcefully exhale and shake his head. He can shout or talk, anything to kind of break that seal. And then he's going to be able to, this is testing the ability of the mask to reseat on the face. He took a breath and held it. It's going to go through that 8-second measurement again. The last 2 steps of the read-on fit test are why it's called read-on. So these are where you actually read on the respirator. So he's taken it off, he's put it all the way back on, and he's going to go through his fit test step.
Just minimize.
Sorry, guys.
And we are having a few comments about people realizing that there is no trigger button here too. And I think we'll get to some of those advantages, but I think that's a fun thing that people are notating.
Yes, and good point. And I should have mentioned that. So it does have auto start. The new machine has auto start functionality. So it senses that breath hold and it goes ahead and initiates the test step. I kind of lost track of where Luke was, but I think that was his final step. Oh no, okay. So he's still got his fifth step. So a second read on. I also didn't mention earlier the purpose of that bend over step. So the purpose of bend over step is to test the effect of gravity on the respirator. So that's why you're bent over and you're seeing if that mask is going to pull away from your face. We talked about the third one, and then you see now the 2 read-ons, which we think is just incredibly valuable. This is going to give your respirator user, I don't know, sort of a sense of confidence for me. It really helped me when I kept doing read on over and over again, because I had to, because I was going to be teaching about it, right? But to just keep wearing my respirator, and it kind of got to the point where I was like, I mean, how high of a fit factor can I get on this thing, right? So I'm really challenging myself to see how it is that it fits on my face to get the best fit that I can get. And so I enjoyed that about the read on protocol. Ooh. Okay, let's just go over here. Okay. So we may have talked a little bit about some of the benefits of the Quantitative Fit 2 and like the upgrade to the experience from the old unit. So what you saw, or what some people commented on, was you don't have to have the trigger button anymore. Now, if you like the trigger button, you can implement it and it will work with the Quantitative Fit 2. But if you want to try out the auto start, it's a pretty cool feature in my opinion. So these are some of the ways that we think the Quantitative Fit 2 could ease some of the stress that comes with respirator fit testing, and then also deal with a lot of those additional considerations that COVID may have added to your program. So with that battery power, you're going to have a lot more portability with where the instrument can go to perform that fit test. A lot of our customers, we've got a lot of the fire market, and a lot of our firefighters really liked that they were going to be able to go outside, be outside the bay, get their fit testing done. It also, because we wanted you to be able to keep your distance as the fit test administrator, you've got Bluetooth capability. We've got the color touchscreen display. You could still go through a test completely touchless, even if you wanted to use the functionality of the signature screen. You could use a stylus so that you're never having to actually touch the instrument. Yeah. So then we also have Logic. Logic's going to allow you to I actually just realized that this last bullet kind of has a little bit of ambiguity. So you're able to perform multiple test steps simultaneously, meaning that when you're operating multiple machines within Logic, you're going to be able to have people starting when it's comfortable for them. A lot, other fit test methods, you may be able to start it, but they're going to have to be on the same step, and it's going to have to run through at the same time. This way, you're able to keep the test independent and go through it that way.
Anything on record keeping?
Oh, yes. So it's going to maintain all of your records, both as a standalone instrument, and then it can also do the same thing within Logic. So you're going to be able to maintain your records. That's actually one of the probably main benefits of the quantitative fit testing, because you're going to have those actual records. And that's something you have to keep up with anytime. If OSHA is going to come look at whatever you're doing, that's a lot easier to show than if you've been doing the qualitative and you're just hand jamming that stuff, right?
Sure.
Okay, so this is just some of the information about the QuantiFit 2 battery. So it is rechargeable. You can recharge on its own, or it can charge in the instrument while the instrument's plugged into the wall. You're going to get 4 more hours of runtime, and that's if it's really going. So that's if you're just having to do test after test after test. It's going to go a lot longer if you've got like space in between. So it can, for me, I've been able to go my 8-hour day, which has been nice. But I mentioned the increased portability. This can be good from a program management point in general, but it also allows the tester to move to a space with increased ventilation, or as I mentioned previously, just go ahead and go outside, right? So these are just, I just love our little avatars.
Mm-hmm.
So I love this screen, but each of our protocols has a different avatar. And this to me is just helping the user. So as I mentioned, if you're having to oversee multiple tests, which we are seeing more and more often, I feel like, if you're having to oversee more tests, I'm not sure if that's because of a staff shortage or what's going on, but you're going to be able to have the ability to have the user focus on the avatar's movement and the instruction on the screen to get them through that test. Whereas maybe before it would have been a little bit more difficult if they just had those written instructions. I feel like the avatars really did enhance that experience. And they're also adorable. And thank you, Justin. I know you had a lot to do with that. So another response to the pandemic for us, while all those machine updates were great, they were all kind of done a little bit as an afterthought. At the onset of COVID, we decided to invest in the development of new adapters. We kept getting call after call about people being concerned about cleaning adapters. So the new pure adapters were essentially designed to be disinfected. They can be completely disassembled and the components either wiped down, sprayed, or submerged. And the coolest part is the little 95% efficiency filtration that can be introduced in line. And this is another thing to just consider about your program, no matter what method you're using. If sometimes it's really just about perception, and I'm not saying that it's not about safety, but like even if you know that what you're doing is enough, sometimes letting people see that right after they've tested, you're taking the tubes, you're taking those adapters off, and you're implementing a process that's they're getting eyes on, that can be what matters to a lot of people to go, okay, they are taking my safety seriously. I do want to, and being able to ramp it up if any, for the next big thing that we can now be pretty sure it's going to happen at some point, and then being able to kind of like bring it back down when maybe we're more in a, I don't call it like normal, but whatever this is, our new normal that's happening right now. So this is just that screen that you're going to see on the front, simply because when we had that video, I'm sure you can't actually see what the screen looks like. You saw that machine operating standalone mode. So this is what it looks like. And this is where you would navigate to anything you might need when you're doing the standalone mode. So when you're not using Logic, you're going to be able to initiate your tests from here, click on the screen. Clearly, you're going to be spending most of your time in your people test area. But when you're doing your setup, this is where you're going to be able to do everything for your company, or if maybe you're intending to be more of a contractor and you're doing fit testing, you're going to be able to set up multiple companies, or if you have multiple sites, you'll be able to do all of that, and you can do it all in standalone mode. And then another way to function is to go through our OHD Logic software. And so this is just an example report. Someone talked a little bit about record keeping. Well, that's sort of twofold. There's, a record kept within Logic. There's a record kept within the instrument itself until you can sync them, or you can clear one out, whichever way you want to go. But there's also a report for the respirator wearer, right? So that's their fit test card so that they know they've had their fit test for the year, can check, when they last had theirs, so that you can implement the date. You can have, a way of setting up, okay, this person just got fit tested. I'm gonna go ahead over here and set myself an alarm for when that next fit test is due. And so this is just an image of how that software looks. Another really cool thing is when you start testing, Logic is going to put up a banner for each test that you've initiated. And then those banners, which here are just these little blue banners, but these banners are going to have each test that you've got going right in front of you. And if something goes wrong with one particular fit test, it'll start blinking red at you. So you know that you have an issue with a particular fit test. If you are maybe doing something where you've implemented distance or you've got multiple machines that you're overseeing. Okay. So thanks, guys. That's pretty much what I had. The kind of general point here overarching was that, if you set yourself up for success and you actually plan your way through your respirator fit testing program and you find yourself where that C&P might be a good fit for you, then hopefully you've gained a little bit of familiarity with our technology, and we'd be happy to help you however we can. We got any questions?
Yeah, we can give it a second and see if anyone has any questions at all. Yes, the live recording of this webinar will be available. Keep an eye on your inbox. Probably by the end of this week, we'll be able to supply a live recording, and we'll go ahead and give you guys the actual PowerPoint slides as well, just so you can share with your team. And then Dr. Lynch, did you want to share about tomorrow and Friday?
So we're doing this again the next 2 days, just with different topics. So tomorrow we've got a noise webinar, same time, same place, same bat time, same bat place. And then on Friday we're doing heat stress because, well, I guess pun intended, it's becoming a real hot topic because of the national emphasis program that OSHA placed on it earlier this year.
Yep. So
we're excited to do that.
Does OHD make an adapter for the Invo N95 elastomeric mask?
That's so interesting. I feel like they were in the process of developing that.
It might be, yeah. We do. If you go to our website, we do have a full list of all manufacturers and then make and models of respirators, and then it'll actually tell you which kit is available, so which adapter is available for that, and then it is available in the pure option as well, which we did have a question on. So.
Well, and if you want to email me specifically, I shouldn't put my email here, but Justin will get that out. Because I actually think we might be in the process of developing that specific one, because I don't know why it would sound familiar if we weren't. So yeah, I think we're in the process of doing that. We've had several, there've been several elastomeric N95 developments over this past year, and we have tried to stay abreast of those and connect with those companies so that we can have adapters for those masks.
Is anything in the works to test N95s other than the hood?
Is anything in the works?
So available from OHD?
Anything available? No.
We've gotten that question a few times.
Is anything?
We had anything?
If anything's in the works, yes. I would love to give you a timeline, and I would love to give you more information, but it's a moving benchmark for OHD.
Any type of good cleaning agents that you would recommend for adapters, for respirators, or where would you point them in the direction of to find that?
So for your adapters and your tubing, anything like that, you're going to want to check the EPA's approved disinfectants list. And for your respirators, you want to be very careful and maybe go through the manufacturer, because there are certain cleaners that are going to degrade that sealing surface, that material. So you have to be very careful about what you're using on your respirators. So I would reach out to the manufacturer of your specific respirator and see if they have wipes available, or if they have one that they recommend that's going to ensure that the integrity of the mask is not impacted.
I think that's perfect. Yep. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you, OSHA. Thank you, Safe+Sound.
Yeah, it's really been fun, and it worked out well. I mean, as well as anything could, going through a pandemic, to be able to have these webinars, and it's just nice to connect with everyone. And I get to see people at conferences. You got to see these webinars, and now we're back in conferences. So I'll be at NSC next month, and look forward to seeing anyone.
Yep. And if there's anything we can do in the meantime, feel free to reach out to us, our tech support staff, our sales staff. We are here to help. So thanks everyone, and have a great day.